Welcome to Hell's Grammar School, the game that tests your sentiment savvy. Hell's Grammar School is presided over by the notorious Chef Gordon Ramsay. Thankfully, Chef Ramsay's instantaneous and crude feedback skills have transferred to the domain of language, and he kindly provides his witty suggestions in no uncertain terms during this game. In this video, we will walk through a typical day at Hell's Grammar School, where you will begin your sentiment tutelage under Chef Ramsay. We will show you how to get started with tutorials and introduce you to our carefully selected committee of sentiment experts. The object of this game is to covertly get players to manually annotate the sentiment of tweets scraped from Twitter that have an associated explicit hashtag of sarcasm, irony, or humour. Historically, these sentiments have been messing with natural language processing research. But one thing that is proving useful in this line of work is collecting a corpus of existing tweets where the tweeter is already tagged it as explicitly being sarcastic, ironic, or humorous, allowing us to gauge the perception of the tweet's sentiment with an external participant. This way, we can explore tweets where there is a match in the perception between the original author and the external subject, or whether there is a mismatch in perceptions of sentiment. In both outcomes, it can be productive to interrogate the aspects of the language used in these tweets. Anyway, talk is cheap. Let's dive into our GWAP. On navigating to our web-based game, the player will be greeted by our signature splash page. Players will enter Hell at their own peril by pressing the large play button. This will take the player to the login or sign up page. Here, first-time users have the option to log in via social media networks like Twitter and Facebook, or the user can create a new account manually. On completion of their details, the user will be shown their new account on the profile page, where they now have the choice to update their account or add a profile picture. Once registered, Hell's Grammar School will present users with a series of short tutorials where it will outline the rules of the game, information on how to maximise their score, and allow users to get acquainted with our resident experts. First up is a tutorial on how to play the game. This page tells players about the prime objective of this challenge, should they choose to accept, which is to identify the type of sentiment associated with the reply tweet shown on the game play screen. A player's score increases by 1 for every match between their perceived sentiment and that which was originally hashtagged in the tweet. After a certain number of matches, Hell's Grammar School promotes the user to the next level of Hell. The next tutorial introduces users to the concept of a sentiment, and in particular, the variety of sentiments that players can expect to grapple with in this game: sarcasm, irony, and humour. This brings us nicely to the next few tutorial screens, where we will explain some of the key sentiments used in this game. In the next tutorial, we illustrate what sarcasm is, using one of our fave TV icons, Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. Next, we explain irony, using our resident linguist Alanis, as irony can be a common source of misconception. We follow on from this with a chance to meet the experts on board this linguistic bandwagon. Our first in-house expert is Sheldon Cooper, who will be the overlord of sarcasm. Our next resident expert is Alanis Morissette, a regular on the irony scene. Finally, we meet the friendly Dr. Hibbert, who will be the gatekeeper for all things humorous. Next comes the most hotly anticipated screen, what our gameplay looks like. Brace yourselves, this screen shows how to play the Hell's Grammar School game in action. This also introduces the user with basic rules of the game. Our next tutorial showcases the leaderboard. This is the ranking of the top 10 players dominating the game. Our final tutorial shows the esoteric and dark foundation upon which Hell's Grammar School has been built. Players are given a roadmap for the levels of Hell. This guide is derived from Dante's Inferno, and we invoke his concept of the 9 circles of Hell to have players start from the highest level 9, Treachery, and claw their way up to the less scariest level 1, Limbo, where users are now at the gates of Hell. I mean, how close to heaven does a guy or gal really want to get? Moving on to the gameplay main screen. Here's where players will guess the sentiment of tweet replies and select the sentiment icon that they feel best matches the tone of the tweet. Players must select the face of one of our key emoji characters to describe their preferred sentiment choice. The topmost tweet in this view is the context tweet, which provides the backdrop for the following reply tweet, which is the tweet that players will base their prediction on. This screen has active components, such as score, which is directly proportional to the number of matches predicted so far, and a thermometer, which shows how long to go before the player reaches the next level. The thermometer bar will rise with each correct guess, and when it is full, players will transition to the next level. In this example, the player's sentiment prediction does not match the tweeter's intended sentiment. When a player makes such a horrendous misjudgment, Chef Ramsay is on hand to let them know. An aggravated Chef Ramsay will appear, ultra flushed, with red eyes, flames, and flying knives. Cue more discouragement from Chef Ramsay, and from the emoji character whose sentiment you neglected to choose for a match. We quickly skip through the various levels of hell that players can crawl through. Notice that each background reflects Dante's circles of hell, described in our level guide. Once again, when the player is unlucky enough to get a mismatch, Chef Ramsay comes out of the woodwork and lets his wrath be known, along with the emoji character that represents the sentiment required for that necessary match. When the user gets a match between the original author's intended sentiment and their selection, a slightly distressed Chef Ramsay will appear in a straitjacket, and an explosion of duct tape will appear on screen to prevent any more foul-mouthed comments from Chef Ramsay. Cue some kind words from our emoji folks too. Over time, players will muddle their way through each of the circles of hell, and a transition screen will notify them about when they are ascending to the next level. In this case, the player is leaving behind the grip of greed to walk into the ever so welcoming jaws of gluttony. The apex of a player's Hell's Grammar School career will be level 1, aka Limbo. Once reaching these dizzying heights of success, players will be in with a shot of featuring on the leaderboard. And voila, that's a wrap for our game. We hope you enjoyed it, learned something new, and that your ego is not being too badly bruised.